let's turn our attention and maybe dig a little bit deeper. So we've talked at a relatively high level componentry. Let's jump down into talking about how we leverage the UI for collaboration, because we've talked about sharing data, sharing documents, putting together processes where people can start and kick off workflows. But ultimately, if people are coming to that knowledge base that's on that website, they may not be able to get an answer to the question that they have, or to resolve the problem that they need to resolve. And as a result, they need to engage in a way that might be digital at first, depending upon how you are providing this. And when I say digital, they're obviously on a website, it's digital, but it could be going through a virtual agent or a chatbot versus seeing a phone number and calling a number, going directly into a voice conversation with a human. So now this jump off point for the extranet serves as not only sharing information, but being that rally point for collaboration as well. And I think this is one of the things that for ourselves at Arroyo, we are super excited about as we work together with you, Sherry, for these extranets to make this a place where you can get conversion, and you can also amplify engagement, and then you can get the data around it. And I think one of the things we didn't mention previously, and maybe just touched on a little bit, is that even though you can jump into this extranet and request services and maybe even request product, you can actually transact inside of this interface as well. So when you think about your e-commerce assets that you have out there, you may have net new customers that come to you through e-commerce, but you could also carry that experience into your extranet so that if people are inside of the extranet, they can go ahead and purchase as well. So if we think about that as being tucked in and they're now engaged in this UI that could be accessed mobile as well as, obviously through a standard desktop or laptop, like these virtual agents and chatbots and searchable knowledge bases that we unpacked before now become the basis for that initial set of triage almost around a need, correct?
Absolutely, Frank. Why don't I kind of share my screen and walk through a fairly simple example to kind of start. So what I really like about this example is the customer was a fairly large a pharma company, and their particular use case was they wanted to create a platform where each one of their vendors could have their own customized site, and they'd still have the ability to manage it all from one place. Don't need to use any third-party licensing. Everything would be within Office 365. So what we created was an extranet like this. Now, what is very cool about everything that you see here is it's all personalized, depending on the particular user that logs into this application, from what the banner says, to what the announcements say, to what the quick links are. Based on that particular location, it would show a time zone that's relevant to them. They would have a subset of users that are actually assigned to their particular case. So as a client now that's working with this particular pharma company, I know at all times, these are my current reps. This is their contact information. These are any of the events that they have planned for us. You have frequently asked questions in one place. Any document that you ever need to share, both back and forth, is in one secure place. Now, keep in mind, these are pharma companies. You need to think about things like HIPAA, making sure you follow all of your secure communication rules. Everything is taken into control by using this particular platform. And of course, you have a centralized calendar to mention or manage any events and tasks, or things like that. So coming back to your point, personalization is extremely important when you think of an extranet, and that personalization can come in the form of the componentry that you have available on the site. And that's just SharePoint and different types of web parts, or you can actually create some of those knowledge bases that you spoke about. So right in the particular example that I showed you, it was targeting client contacts based on the logged in user. But very easily, it could also be showing a customizable knowledge base based on the person that's logged in. So if Sherry's logged in once, I've asked a specific question. The next time that I log in, I'll see content that's more targeted to someone that has a search history that's similar to mine. So now you're actually solving problems before the customer actually brings them up. The
Yeah.
more you learn about that particular customer, the more you can help them and providing them more context in terms of your specific extranet. You can address them more conversationally without being overbearing or anything like that. Everything can be fairly polite. You kind of spoke about those virtual agents now. Microsoft itself has their own chat, so you utilize Power Virtual Agents. What's interesting in that tool, it falls within Microsoft's Power Platform, is now these virtual agents have a knowledge base behind them.
Mhm.
Every person that asks them a question, everything goes into their knowledge base. So now they can provide you much smarter answers, and they don't have to be all automated. You can have a human factor to them as well. So
Mhm.
you can make them a little bit more engaging, a little bit more personalized, and you can toggle between kind of that human and AI methodology to really provide a very specific, both helpful and comforting experience as well.
I like
So, of course, document management, targeting that, kind of how we shared in our examples, the knowledge base, Power Virtual Agents, all simple ways that you can make your UI within your extranet really strong and engaging.
Yeah, that's great. When we think about an extranet, it's also really good to name it. It's a touch point. So if you think of a customer journey, it is one of the specific touch points. It's the intersection of people and content. You typically want something to happen at that particular intersection. And if it is engagement that we're talking about and amplifying engagement, one of the best things that you can do, Sherry, I think is really to integrate your communications platform into your extranet. So let's say, for example, if you had that site that you had up a few minutes ago and you had a chat at the bottom, perhaps that person could be in a chat bot. Maybe they're not getting the answers that they need and they request to speak to a human. Now, in the process of doing that, this is where the power of a communications platform comes in, especially if you have a contact center communications platform tied into it. A contact center is going to have automated call distribution. It's going to have routing rules. It's going to have data dips in back into your customer database, which says that this individual here that's already logged in, right? We've already have them as a logged in user. We know who they are. We can now affiliate that with the CRM. So maybe inside of Salesforce or inside of Dynamics CRM, it indicates that Joe is that person's support person. Or we could identify that they had a case recently and they had that case dispositioned by Janet, and Janet provided an unbelievably good experience. Let's get this person into speaking with Janet. All these rule sets and capabilities to provide easy routing and smart routing is part of a communication system that adds a tremendous amount of value. At the same time, for the person in the CRM, you have like two integrations here, right? You have this communication system at the touch point where there is a chat window and maybe there's an escalation into a video. But regardless, when this gets routed to an agent, say for example, it could be a salesperson, it could be a customer support person, we can have a screen pop occur at the actual CRM. So now what happens is on one side, you've got the user, they're in the extranet, they're having this conversation. This is getting up leveled to an agent. That agent is getting a screen pop with a chat and a history of what that individual went through the chatbot. So that agent knows already, they searched for these 5 things. This is what they were looking for. So there's an understanding of journey, and that is actually being captured in the CRM as well. So the power of what we have today, like it sounds like it's way more complicated than it ever was. And in truth, it really is. But the ability to make these things come about through whether it be existing APIs or existing integrations can create an incredible, not only a customer experience, but an agent experience as well. So that communication platform tied into the extranet is a big time win as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And the goal that you're trying to do with this extranet is to create a seamless experience.
That's right.
Seamless for your customer, seamless for the agent or the support staff that's on the back end. You want to make the process as simple as possible. You want your customer to come on the site, you want them to engage. So you want personalization. But
Yes.
on the back end, you also want that one place where the information related to that particular person exists. So any salesperson that gets that particular query can help. And of course, Frank, we've addressed this in integrations in the past where we've used things like Ring Central and connected it to Microsoft Dynamics,
Yes.
really kind of addressing that use case where whenever you had a ring to a particular agent, you had the file of that specific consumer with all of the information already there. This ties brilliantly into the CDP as well. That if you have that overarching customer data platform available, that data platform will actually track the journey, not just within that extranet, but also across your websites, across your other channels. With the ID resolution capabilities that the CDP provides you, you can actually be more personalized, be a lot more thoughtful, avoid things like double engagement or over engagement in the sense of emails, text messages, and all of these various forms. You can be concentrated and effective. And it's honestly never been easier than that to achieve that than it is today.
I love the CDP like that. The CDP is one of those solutions that's come along in the last 2 to 3 years that fundamentally changes the game. Because you mentioned ID resolution, sounds like a simple thing, but it actually is a real pain point for a lot of marketers. And it also understanding what that persona is and then what their personalization requirements are, even in cases where you're not asking them. I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but as part of the Microsoft stack, there's the ability through, I believe, Power Automate and some of the other tools for there to be behavioral analysis. So you can figure out like what this person's preference is without them even really telling you, because that's how they're reaching out each time. You may be able to even advise them that they have other choices, but nevertheless, we have much more data insights